Hello and welcome to This and That. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. And Dave, exciting. This is technically my new place in New York.
Wait, you mean you went on House Hunters, found a new place, and have moved in all in a couple of days, Jonathan?
No, I don't mean that because it's still quasi under renovation. So I'm living like a La Boheme situation, Patrick Chan, circa that one World Championships.
Jonathan, I think you said that your walk-in closet wasn't done yet before we signed on.
No, for sure. I understand these are first world problems. However,
Yes.
when I'm like bouncing between Philly and New York working, it still doesn't mean I want to inhale construction dust while I'm sleeping at night.
You've been very busy since the World Championships. We were originally going to do this show last week. We kind of have finagled it. You were busy teaching, then I traveled, then we came back and...
Where'd you travel, Dave? I don't remember.
I went to Athens, Georgia, where everyone goes for the regional championships. Yes.
Love it.
Yes. And I
Some
found...
Suzanne encounters, perhaps?
Yes.
Okay.
And Courtney, yes.
Okay.
But I find that when I go into something and not like I'm covering it, like I just go for enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I ever was really like this about skating, but I find that I go in and out of my cheering. And I also go in back, like I can do the falsetto cheer, like the woo! And I can be like, stick it! Go! Like, yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Jonathan, like, we were in the front row at one point, and they like you to be loud and to energize the team.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
Suzanne feeds off of that, like, manic energy, and so does Courtney. Like, they want the girls to be, like, warriors, and it's a very loud arena. They come out to sparkling fireworks and spotlights, and I think that skating could use a lot of that. Like, they could use
a bit more production value.
A bit more production value to get you really amped up for the final group. And I know that the ISU does that a bit with that stupid thing where they kind of wave in the middle of the ice, which I kind of...
I get the intention.
I
for
get
sure.
the intention. When it's the 12th place pair team, I don't get it as much. It seems silly. But for the last group, I really think that there should be like a hype video. And just, I think the judging takes way too long. And they need to really amp it up. And they don't have that opportunity. So it was just interesting to watch how smooth this runs. They make sure that you're out there, you're out in under 2 hours. Like, you're in, you're out. It's not lasting forever. It actually felt like it almost went too fast at times.
So would you consider then in, like, when they're judging vaults and things like that, it's an easier kind of thing to judge because it's just how someone would judge, like, a triple axel, right? So they're able to keep the pace going.
Yeah, so not all gymnastics is scored like this. This is still out of the 10, rather than the elite scoring system, which also takes forever, not as long as skating. But I think part of what makes it so crowd appealing is that you can watch it and you can formulate a score in your mind. Like when you're watching a competition under the 6-0, you can kind of watch the things. And I think what's great for the audience is that you can boo, you can yell at the judge, because the 4 judges, you see them post their scores before they average, right? They throw out the high and the low, and then they average in a competition. So you see the 4 scores, and it's like 985, 9999, 10, and the person behind you is like, "Who's that bitch that gave the 985?" And of course, you can look.
Dave.
You can get angry, right? And these are all the things that, even though people like to get outraged by scores, they really enjoy being outraged. People enjoy.
Of course. It's like any basketball game or something with a strange call.
Yeah.
You hear them. It's a part of this thing. And what's interesting is, for me, gymnastics has more of what would seem, as an outsider, more of an athletic kind of event vibe to it, where skating does kind of find this performance vibe meets a sporting event vibe. So it is kind of like, are we being dignified and applauding a performance, or are we rowdy and at a sporting event?
I think they need to find more of a happy medium, but I think they're failing at both. And especially the biggest problem, I think, with a skating event is all of the dead air. There's nothing worse than when the event happens, right? You're at a skating event, someone skates, they bow, and then they go to the event and, like, the music comes on low and you're waiting, and then Rusty comes on or starts speaking, and it's cringy. Even though this was a circus where 4 things are happening at once, you still are moving. There's scores. You can look and flash and kind of keep track, and you can watch the other event going on.
Because that's my question also, Dave. Yeah. I've not attended a live gymnastics event.
You were invited.
I know you were. You invited me. It was very sweet. But I think that one of the deterring factors sometimes is, as an outsider, I don't know how you literally manage watching 4 events at the same time.
So you don't really watch all 4 at the same time, but you also are watching one event and you can kind of see what's happening in the background, right? Okay. And you can kind of pull back to kind of watch 2 at once and then move back forth. You can't watch all 4, but you don't really usually need to watch all 4.
Well, that's the thing. When you're watching this incredible beam routine or something on YouTube, and then in the background, I'm hearing like Mambo number 5 and surges of crowd energy in the wrong moment. I really think it speaks to their focus level and their tunnel vision, those athletes, because seemingly I would be so distracted to be like, really? Mambo number 5, right now I'm trying to do my dismount. Like, can you just be quiet for a second? But they must just be used to it.
They prepare for it, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a college arena is a little bit smaller than an NHL rink, but they pack in almost 11,000 people. To the one in Georgia, they pack in 15,000 to the one in Utah, and they market it well. And they fill it up, and the energy is really electric. And if they could get that energy into skating, I think it would translate to TV as well. That's why we always talk about just hand out the tickets a couple of times, U.S. figure skating, and eat the cost, because at the end of the day, it makes it so much better for TV. And because
100%.
And I think that was the one thing that I really noticed.
So did you find the audience there also primarily collegiate in age, or was it a mix? Because
it's a mix from
skating is a real mix when you see the crowd. Yeah.
So one thing that's nice with these teams is that a lot of the alumni come who've been on the team for the last 30 years, and they come with family, friends, family and friends of the athletes come, students at the university come, families come with young children, and I think skating doesn't have enough actually young kids who want to be the next Adam Rippon, Nathan Chen, Ashley Wagner, Gracie Gold. They don't have a lot of it's also maybe priced too high. This is priced at like $15, $20, so you can go see it. There's a lot of things that are happening there to get you in the door, and I think that that's some of the stuff that skating could benefit from. And
absolutely, yeah.
In addition to consistency of where the event is held, awareness, right? Like there's a lot of different decisions that go into how this works. And I know they've had luck with Spokane. They go back to Greensboro a lot. I think they go to a lot of the more inexpensive arenas. They go to that Hoffman Estates in outside of Chicago a lot. But
it becomes a deterrent for someone like, let's say, from New York. If I'm going to do that, now I'm flying to a city, renting a car, going to a suburb. They make it more difficult, where even Greensboro, it's not an easy direct flight for anyone.
Yeah. So the Hoffman Estates Arena, and I know people that live around there love that they get to go to events there. And I've only been there once when the Skate America was there. And it was the same week as the World Series when the Cubs were actually in the World Series, and there was no one there.
Okay.
And U.S. Figure Skating also did something weird where the ladies were in the afternoon on Saturday, and then they had the short dance after it, and it was when they were debuting the hip hop swing rhythm dance, short dance. And there was no one in the audience. I mean, the Shibutanis were performing for maybe 1,000 people max, probably under that. And it felt really sad for the skaters because it wasn't marketed well. And it's obviously not their fault.
It's such an energy thing. Yes. I mean, to do a kind of hip-hop thing and feel that roar from the crowd, it could totally make or break it. And, of course, when you're playing to an empty crowd, what are you doing? It feels so strange.
It was like an event. It always reminds me of those senior Bs where you can't see the audience. So I was just, I just watch it. You notice a lot of things that they're doing with the marketing. They're passing out the 10 signs, they're passing out all of that. And even though it's a little bit corny and sticky, I think that having some of that is still fun.
It inspires involvement. it gets them a little more active as audience members. Yeah,
and absolutely. I know that when Michelle was competing, they would pass out different things at different events, not always just for her, but they always had the 6-0 signs on TV, American flags, and I think it's great when the Japanese fans have the Japanese flags, but there is a lot of dead air, and I always find Skate America usually not a well-attended event. It's usually in a place that's rather difficult to get to. I'm intrigued by what happens with a Las Vegas venue. Yeah.
No. What that does.
So, when they have it in Lake Placid, it actually is usually quite well attended, even though it's hard to get to Lake Placid. But I think it's an Olympic town.
I will never go. I will never go if it's in Lake Placid. I'm not jumping through so many hoops.
I like Lake Placid because it's charming, even though it's really hard to get there, right? Like, it's really hard, but it's such a charming mountain town that when you're there, you feel like you're in, like, this beautiful little mountain town when you actually get there. The ride is horrific. I mean, have a good audiobook or podcast downloaded, ready to go, to really deep into, because it's...
TSL, your old TSL favorite interviews, it's
going to feel... I remember it felt like we were driving through pitch black. I mean, there are no street lights at certain points, but when you get there, it actually feels worth it. And it feels Olympic, right? Rather
that is kind of a nice vibe.
When you go to Hoffman Estates...
You feel suburban.
It's worse than that. It feels like the party is happening 2 hours away. And
because it is.
And you're at, like, some cheesy, dead, back-in-time activity. That's kind of what I was getting. So, anyway, that was a long tangent about this. But, yes, there was a lot of cheering. And, I don't know if they do this in NCAA basketball, but... I know you're very into the Duke players. I don't know how they did in the March Madness. Is it good, bad?
We stopped at Sweet 16. It was too bad. And they got so much grief for winning by a point one game, and then the next game they lost by a point. I don't know.
So,
it was intense.
So when your team loses in basketball, right? Because we often talk about skating and why skating fans are particularly annoying in certain ways, even though they're very supportive. So obviously you're supportive of the Duke team, right? You're into them, you're following them, watching tons of games on TV. So when they lose in the Sweet 16, like, what happens? Are the fans, like, recalibrating what needs to change for next season? Or do they automatically go into they were robbed, that ref was inappropriate, we should have won? Or do they say they work really hard and it was a bad day?
No one says that. And Dave, it's funny. I was with the group I watch it with, and they were all like, oh my gosh, they should have done this. They should have done this. Like, oh, that was so close, but it was such a good game. And I was like, and I started spewing this garbage. I was like, it's about the journey, and they did so beautifully. And like, I hope that they can feel confident that they absolutely played well. And Karen, my friend, she just turned to me. She's like, excuse me? She's like, they don't care about their journey. Their journey was supposed to be them winning the whole thing. They don't care how far they came. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Yes. And I was like, skating. That's skating, actually. Because it's also so much different when you're an individual throwing out kind of a vulnerable artistic product as well as just an athletic feat, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's such... Same thing with singing. If you don't like someone's singing instrument, it feels personal because that's your own instrument. Mm. It's different than like the dynamics of a team game and that sort of stuff. But yes, when I went there, like, they played great all season. I hope they sleep well knowing that they did all they could. And it was met with utter, like, shock that I would even say something like that.
Now, did you mean it, or were you being sarcastic?
Somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle, that I, as a performer, have to tell myself things like that all the time. This was not ideal. The perfectionism stuff. This was not ideal, but I have to take refuge in the fact that I did the best I could under these circumstances. And I can beat myself up about it, or know that, like, this was unfortunate. I did everything I could. On to the next.
See, I can get upset and I'll be really hard on myself, but then I will start planning on what I need to fix, right? And what I need to improve. Whenever that kind of situation happens. It's interesting because there was a gymnastics coach from Alabama, and the program, since she took over, has steadily been going down, and she gives a lot of these quotes like, pressure is a privilege. We love the challenge of getting a 197. So they didn't make the national championships. Alabama is a cutthroat team. And
I remember the documentary you showed me about this.
So this is the longtime assistant who took over, and they've been like tail spinning. And they've been going down like steadily, like 1 or 2 spots every year. And last year she fired her longtime assistant. That one took the fall. This time it could be her. But of course she gave that quote about, it's a journey, and I hope everyone appreciates the journey, and we will grow from this. And someone sitting next to me goes, yeah, she'll grow right out the door. And I appreciate that. I appreciate when someone is just that real with you.
Well, and that's one of those things when you hear like certain coaches or players, for instance, in a basketball tournament, and then they come out afterwards and be like, oh, they just played so much better than us today. Yeah. We didn't know what happened. It took us too long to get moving, and by the time we were moving, we were too far behind, and they just played much better than us. So we have to go back to the drawing board.
It's a wonderful reality check when something like happens, because after the skating worlds, I have to say I've been on a little bit of a detox. It happens every year. I didn't tell.
Well, excuse me, 4 2-hour like segments with guest Dave. I think we earned the rest.
I enjoyed that, although I felt very drained after, and it took me several days, like 4 or 5 days into. And of course, people are like, "When's the last was Unirobbed episode going to be up?" And I'm like, "Do you realize we just gave you 4 episodes plus 2 Olympic shows
back to back?" Yeah.
Then you have to deal with the fallout from Worlds that happens to us as we've grown in a show, and we try to be polite with longtime viewers, right?
Yeah.
But then there were other messages, Jonathan. One skater, and I don't want to mention the skater because it's not her fault.
Right.
However, a family member, like an extended family member, emailed us saying that we were inappropriate because we didn't care for the skater's dress. And it was like, uncalled for. How dare you? And I was thinking like, I rewatched it and I said that I thought that the dress was muted with the music. I said, but we also said that the skater finished 3rd and we thought they should have been 2nd.
Now we'll never know who you're talking about, Dave.
But wait a second. And I know the exact, like, the gays that watch the show that have to feel really self-important are going to, like, now write it in the comments. I can name, like, who will do it. Manuel or no. Like, we know who's going to, like, figure this out. But, anyway, you think, like, if we said that we didn't like your dress, didn't like your program, and still thought that you deserved to be 2nd when you finished 3rd, that's a pretty fantastic review from us. We clearly like your skating a lot, okay?
And always have been huge proponents of it, actually.
But also, not the first time that this camp has been very...
sensitive about it.
Sensitive, because one time Law said that they didn't like a dress, and another family member went off on a rant. And it was like, again, very big fans of the skater, actually support them consistently. And if that's, like, the biggest thing, gets a little...
Yeah.
Also, I got a 5-page, and I was too tired to respond, and I felt bad. 5 pages from one person, because we said that a skater needed to bend their knees more and become more fluid in the ice and should maybe spend time with Lori. And then someone didn't understand that Google ads are based on where you live. So they were saying that everyone from their home state is going to turn on us and not want to support us anymore. Jonathan, it was just a lot to handle.
But it's interesting because something about this sport inspires some sort of connection. And it is interesting because some of these skaters, you do feel like you're sharing a moment with them and you forget, like, no, you're not. They're competing. They're in a competitive environment. So someone has to win. And, I spent so much of my particular career trying to get out of a competitive mindset because I'm not actually competing. I mean, I am in a way, but like, it's not a 1st, 2nd, 3rd place kind of thing. But we are doing that. We do. The sport has to quantify and evaluate who's doing what. And we know judges. And we know that judges come from various backgrounds. And we could be mad that this judge doesn't understand music. or this judge never ice danced, so they don't really know what they're looking for. They're just judging based on reputation or something. But I mean, that is who's judging the sport.
Oh my God.
They
I
do
loved
let
the comments.
outside things matter. Yeah.
I loved the comments in the Joe Inman video, because there are some people that will say, how dare he judge? Or, he should have never been judging. He should be reported. But I at least think that it's interesting that the viewers can learn who the people are who are judging this. Because there traditionally have been stuffy, elitist type people, not just math nerds, the way some people were.
Right.
Then the Hanyu fans have taken it to another level, and they were trying to trap me the other day on Twitter, but I was, like when you know that you're being targeted and bullied, but you feel like I probably should respond to this anyway, rather than just ignoring them, 'cause they seem like they have a lot of feelings. He did pop a jump in the short program, so they tagged me in Megan.
And that's okay. And it doesn't mean you can't say he didn't. But, so, I mean, of course you should say he popped.
They think robbed 20 points, yada, 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 they'll go on forever. But anyway, again, Nathan performed better than him that day. It happens. Doesn't mean Nathan is inherently better. For that 48-hour window, Nathan Chen earned more points. Anyway.
And it's always that argument in skating. And as much as I wish we were, and we kind of talked about this with Adelina Sotnikova, you want certain prizes to be lifetime achievement awards. And I understand that, but it's not a fan favorite award. It's not a contribution to the sport award. It's who did the most things on that night award. Yeah.
So, so they were trying to say whether or not GOEs are subjective. And I said yes, and they were like ready to say that I was some person that should never talk about skating, because they really believe that the bullets are inherently objective, and of course they're not, because otherwise they would all be the same.
No,
they're guidelines.
You can write them, but that guideline, you're still assessing the quality of that guideline.
What is a nice air position to someone is not to another. I mean, this is all subjective. So anyway, silly arguments, just saying, you need to take a little bit of a break sometimes.
Take a step back, put it all in perspective. We watch this and love this sport for fun.
Yes. So let's get into all the stuff that happens, and then we'll talk about shows that we have upcoming for this off season. So first things first. So Deanna and Nate split. I think that this surprised no one who was paying attention. And when was the moment that you knew that they were just donezo? Because there's a clear moment for me where I knew
there's a clear moment for you, but my moment started in late September, early October of 2016? 2017, because I was in Vancouver. And it was there that we first started noticing real ripples in the kiss and cry. And by that, I don't mean some petty disagreement. It just felt like, remember that Four Continents where I fell in love with Alysa?
Yes.
When I think it was something like Delilah said, like, well, some things went well. Or I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember this exactly. And Alexa turned and was like, oh, really? Like what? Because it had not gone well.
Didn't you say, I don't know what you're talking about? Right?
Yeah, it was something like there was trying to be a positive moment, and Alexa had a realist moment, which is very refreshing in skating, especially in a kiss and cry, which is now used as like propaganda microphone time. And so we saw that kind of disconnect. We saw maybe people in different positions and coming at it from different angles and maybe with different goals and things like that. But I know yours is more specific.
Well, I knew that. I think we all knew that there was tension. I think that you could see it. I was at Mid-Atlantics over the summer, and honestly, I really feel like in this situation, the situation wasn't even like discord between Deanna and Nate, as much as it was between Deanna likes to be the leader and is very striving. But Jim's own ego and insecurity is like a brick wall. And if you notice, he had to choreograph for his teams forever. He likes to be in charge. And
it seemed like two leader types.
Right. But do you ever notice that when his teams do well, he kind of makes it about himself? Like, have you ever noticed that when Jim's teams do well at nationals, he is the king of the castle. he is the one who is sobbing. He is the one who is jumping. Like, his reaction always has to trump the skater, right? Like, making the Olympics was so much about him and his, like, unfulfilled skating career. And
but he understandably has ego in that.
Yes, understandably, right?
Because that's their brand also. That was a big turning point when that happened. But yes, it's one of those moments when you think the brand and the success is the skater, and you do see a coach who's carrying it as a badge of honor. But I think...
But you have to be equal, right? And the coach has reason to be proud, supportive, cocky, right? But it has to... The excitement level should be, like, even, so they're not just pawns, right? Like, it's like an unhealthy balance. But I think you could see with her, and to me, the clearest moment that these people are not on the same page and never going to be on the same page is at nationals. And to me, I've always felt like a lot of gym skaters have really poor skating skills and bad music, but he gives you the same schlock again and again. And his camp will always say, well, he's gotten teams to the Olympics. Well, he's gotten Nate to the Olympics. But it's like, and he has, and they finished 14th, right? Like, but instead of striving for more and bringing in all of the experts and they seem to have a very insular vibe. Like, it seems to be really hard to allow them, like, to even get outside choreographers took years, right? So for them to get the big twist, to get the skating skills they need.
But look what happened when he did. The problem is when these fears become founded, when he does bring in Delilah to work on a twist and she steals the team.
But maybe they felt suffocated, or maybe they needed to, right? Like, there are other reasons that, right?
Yeah, I totally understand. But to me, then it gives him a reason to dig in his heels even more.
You have to live life with BDE and have that attitude, like, see, because Delilah plays it the other way. Delilah plays it like, oh yeah, you want to come skate? You can come do a couple twists. I'm just going to be here with the kids, Yeah. And she plays it like the indifference act. Like, obviously she wants a team. Obviously she wants to win. But they're playing different games. Angles. But she does always seem to be a little bit ahead of him overall. Like, 55-45, right? Like, she's winning. He did have the people go to the Olympics, but she seems like she has the upper hand, typically. He usually seems more like underdog.
Colorado location?
Part of it, but I think that the big twist is a big part of this, right? And then some of it, I think, is just he's a control freak. And look, we've done interviews with him that he then didn't want us to air, and like we thought they were fine, and we're like, okay, like, you're the pair team, like 1,000 people are going to watch it, it's not that big of a deal, right? But at the end of the day, I think that with her, so he and Nate thought that their performance at Nationals was, like, amazing. And Deanna was ticked because she thought that they were going to get pushed off of the Four Continents team with the politics that be how well they really would have needed to skate. And when I watched their Nationals performance, it was like the first time you do a clean long in competition, but it was still scrappy as hell. The throws were dicey. The jumps were landed forward, hand down, no matching lines. Like, it was real rough, and it had promise. And she's a great performer, and Nate is strong, but he looks like Max Aaron doing pairs. And it's just a mismatch. And to me, it looks like they settle for less, right? Like
and this is the thing when we talk about certain pairs who are seemingly doing okay. Mm-hmm. And at what point is okay enough for someone? And at what point is wanting to succeed in the biggest of dreams really the only end result that's acceptable for them? And I think that, like, for someone like Nate, I think making the Olympics was
more than you would have expected, right?
More than you may have ever hoped you could have achieved. And that's amazing. But I think that someone like Deanna, like, of course, we all know that's 6.0, like the Carrie Lotion Classic when they said those hilarious sponsorships. She's someone who got a perfect score once, got a lot of attention for it. I don't know that Nate thinks a perfect score is within his grasp.
Right. And I think she has she's older, right? So you're going to think that she is crazy, but it takes someone a little bit crazy to get to the top. It takes someone a little bit out of the box, and she is older and may not get there, but she is landing all of her jumps, right? And
she did those Instagram videos of the lutz, the loop, and the flip.
And he's been off the ice with a knee issue. He wrote about it. She wrote about it.
And I just want to say for the record that he wrote about it on his notes on like an iPhone or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I am obsessed with the fact that the location was Manatee, Florida. that was everyone's taking away the injury. Everyone's taking away what will they do next. And I was like, I'm sorry.
But Jim is trying to spin because Carrie will be texting us that they, they just couldn't get along. And you're like, they couldn't get along because she was watching his dog that night. Or was it that Deanna and couldn't get along with Jim anymore? That's what I think you have to kind of wonder.
Or do you have people with different goals and different expectations or standards for themselves? It's very clear Deanna puts a lot of pressure on herself and expects a certain level.
Yes.
And I would think if you have a certain mindset and goal in mind that you feel you can attain and you're not totally on the same page as the person next to you, that can be difficult. She's ready to dream big.
Out, right? And I think the other issue, when you watch with the skating skills, like these things don't change. Tara Kane had that really wonky technique forever under Jim, and it just didn't change. It was more of the same. And I think he can get teams to a certain level that might be to the national podium and then to the world. But how well are you going to do, right? Like, are you going to move ahead? And again, you were talking about at what point do you want to be good and what point do you want to be great? I really think that it is the job of Kyoko and the other members of U.S. figure skating where they're doing a disservice, and they did something really passive-aggressive and really hysterical. That is so them because they lack balls, but they want to have balls, right? So Nina Mosier split up a team and rematched them because she thought that they had just no more potential, and she just played baller and had partners switch on a session, right?
Like the Chinese, I mean, when you know.
Right. Now, it is cold, right? Like, it is cold to do, and people have feelings and emotions and put a lot of work into it, and I understand that. But when you think about it long term, is it meaner to tell someone that this is not going to work? Or is it meaner to keep pushing a team that has serious limitations down the road when you know they're not going to make it, but you just like to have a lot of teams at nationals?
Because what then ends up happening is you get what happened at nationals, which are kind of like some great female partners, some great male partners, but no one's actually like kind of firing it all together at the same time. And that's the kind of depth you have instead of a less amount of teams that are much bigger factors. And we talked about this with Alexa and Chris. I think that their raw potential is just like Aliona said, which she's like, why wouldn't they be bronze at the World Championships based on the raw matching and the raw ability? Mm-hmm. So here comes an outsider who she knows all the things, has all the experiences, and sees you can dream big. You have all the ingredients. Why aren't you shooting for a world medal, let alone not making the team? Or let alone, some of these other situations. And I know all these people will now say, it's because of this, it's because of this. But at the end of the day, like we're talking about with Deanna and Nate, like you have to know to dream big. And I think Deanna does dream big. And so I hope she's able to find some sort of partnership that can give her the ability to create art and sport at a high level like she's craving.
Yeah, and I think with him, he has to take time to recover the knee. He hasn't been on the ice since nationals consistently. So there's that. But I was thinking, so what they did at the pair tryout, Jonathan, is, so obviously we've talked about this for so long, about like who the stronger people are in these partnerships, and that some of these teams are dead end. And particularly Haven has had knee issues, hasn't landed a double axel in years consistently.
And that's okay. Sometimes that happens. She had some great moments as a skater. She does some beautiful lifts, things like that. But at the end of the day,
great qualities, right?
What what about him over here who's now skating with someone who we already know is at a deficit because she can't do all of the elements?
And think about how much money they're investing in the sport because her family is the wealthier one. Think about how much money they are spending because coaches and the federation is encouraging them to keep going. Not because they necessarily believe in this team, but because it's good to have backups and options, right? Like you're being used at a certain point.
And a silver medal at U.S. Nationals does seem like a big feat until
it's enough
you realize,
to keep going, but until you realize that's all you can really do unless hell freezes over. But then you can't make the long at Worlds, right?
And I wonder if Nate and, Haven or whomever think that that is enough. But I fear that sometimes what happens is you're denying the partner the chance to move further that they are able to do,
So do you know what Justin Dillon and Mitch did?
Well, I do because you told me.
They invited Danny O'Shea and Brandon to help with the pair cattle call tryout in Texas. Basically to show them other options and to give them a nudge without telling them to split. Because I think there's a fear of being real in skating. When you do give the blunt kind of Aliona advice, US skaters don't know how to take it. Right? Like they don't know how to take that information.
Except as an affront.
Yeah. So when we did the Worlds preview with John Coughlin in 2017, he said that he thought that Alexa and Chris were in it for a medal. And I remember sitting there being like, okay, I don't want to get really blunt with you because you're a guest in our house. But what? Right? And I was just like, great team. Potential to get 2 spots for the U.S.
But the raw potential, the talent is there to do that, but that doesn't mean that will happen in this situation with these programs at this current state of affairs.
Right, but in U.S. skating, there seems to be a culture where we say these kind of BS things, right?
And you almost know that it is. I'm convinced that the people saying it also don't really buy it.
So I remember the first time I ever saw Kirsten Moore Towers and Michael Marinaro together. Jenny and I were commenting, I think it was a Skate Canada, and we said, and I know that I said it because she confronted me about it a year later. I said, it's just never going to really work to that level. And you see 4 continents. 5 years later, she is skating at one level, he's skating at a different level. And
he has risen to the challenge. He has far exceeded probably most people's expectations of what he was capable of doing.
Yes.
But when you have someone like her next to him, you have to wonder, she was ready for world medals.
Yeah. She
was right there. And I understand that she should not have stayed in a relationship that was not right to stay in. And that's not what anyone's saying. But one has to be a little realistic. Okay, Kirsten, you are this incredible gift to skating. And if you love skating enough and you want to kind of take this journey, let's take it. But know that, the results have limitations.
So I had 2 thoughts about Rachel Parsons' announcement that she was no longer going to be skating, right? One, she's having eating disorder treatment and body image, and we wish her well. And with that.
Always sad to hear, and that someone at that age has to be so public about something that's so difficult. My heart breaks for her, but I was also really proud that there's clearly the perspective to say this is a sport not worth this.
Mm-hmm. And it's not everything. I think people lose the fact, and parents do all the time in skating, that your success in this competitive sport does not define you as a person.
That's hard. It's wrapped up in a result.
Right? Yeah. Because everyone in skating, when they get so tied in, think that what you think of a skater is what you think of them as a person, or what you think, or your result is how good you are, and you see it, and you see the warped view when people do the star worship and the fawning, but anyway, this girl, if skating is not making her happy or is not healthy for her, go out and be successful and don't need. But one of the things that bothers me about this is when you talk about mismatching, right? Her brother is a short ice dancer, right? She's a taller girl. No one has ever called her a big girl. No one has ever talked about that way. But
she's not. Yeah.
Right. But we have said that they're mismatched. Because he is too short for her, and it's not necessarily even that they won't be able to physically do a lift. It's that they won't be able to do the kind of lifts that are required to get you to that high level, right?
Of course, yeah. But it's the same conversation we have a little bit at times with Jean-Luc and Caitlin.
And Kane and Leduc, right? Like
they can do the same lift, but it's not going to look the same. And I understand that that's not something they can change.
Yes.
But it is something, it is an aesthetic position, and it happens, you know?
And with this, with them, and we also know that they're siblings, there are limitations to that, but you don't necessarily have to. I mean, the Shibutanis medaled. They... You don't have to split, but in this situation, there was an issue where they weren't matched properly, right? Like their skating was not like the Duchesnes, where they were at a good different height for the era that they're competing in, for the rules and the requirements that they're competing in. It became a problem, right? Like he looked...
And Maya and Alex were still well-matched
proportioned,
physically.
Right?
Yeah,
like they were well-proportioned. They had similar skating, simpatico going on. The Parsons really have had a problem. But this is a problem that you could have seen 6 years ago. And how many times did they keep sending these skaters out on the Junior Grand Prix, Junior Worlds for years when it kind of became obvious that that was their ceiling. They were never going to make it. And we've said it, and then we've got like emails from people that are in that camp being like, you don't like our skaters? And it's like, it's not that. It's just that this is... clearly a ceiling of dead-endery that is going on. And
there's a limitation.
Think about it. When there is an imbalance, right? Ultimately, you can have the guy go to the gym and you can have the girl lose weight. Go to the gym and lose weight. And typically, the pressure becomes greater on the person to lose weight than it does on the other person to bulk up. And that's just like something that happens within skating culture.
It's cruel. It's cruel because suddenly someone feels responsible solely for accommodating someone else's just inherent lack of height. And I'm not
saying that that's the reason for her eating disorder. I don't know the reason for her eating disorder, but I'm saying that this seems like it could be a likely contributing factor. And she is existing in this world where this is a concern.
Where we know this pattern has been discussed by other skaters. This exact thing. It's a tricky thing. Yeah.
So it's like, it is bothersome. It's bothersome to me when you think about this team. They each could have found another partner, even if they had to take a year off, 5-6 years ago. And to me, it feels like a waste of time, right? Like think about all of the, you literally put your life on hold. Sometimes you rob yourself of a high school experience, a college experience, an education, right?
A social experience, friends outside of this strange insular world, of course.
Because some coach, and you have to think that everyone has an agenda, right? So Deanna's agenda, get to the top of the podium, right? Jim's agenda, be the coach with the national champion, right? Be the choreographer, be this. For their coaches, it's like build this ice dance stable that we have in Maryland and have all these teams so that more talented skaters come, so that we can build champions. But you start to see that there are people that are maybe not giving you honest advice or the advice that you really need to hear. People are telling you sometimes what you want to hear. They want to keep the money coming in. They want to keep doing things like that. So it is bothersome that you think about that there are certain situations that can be kind of prevented, right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, like, this is an interesting concept to me, like, how big are you dreaming?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, this idea that, well, we can keep going medaling at Junior Worlds, and it's like, well, but maybe if you split, like, suddenly he could have a medal at Senior Worlds, you know, with the right partner, something like that.
Look at what happened with the Hubbles. They split, and she did go and find, and that would have never happened at... They kept skating together. Because they were giving off an icky vibe. Like, it just wasn't working. And they're both very talented. It also brings
back to the point. Remember when Jenny would talk about Alex Johnson? Mm-hmm. And she was like, we're looking at a skater who's finishing, you know, in the bottom half of the top 10 at nationals every year. But she was like, but based on his quality, if this skater ever decided to go ice dance and utilize some of these beautiful edges, we're looking at the national champion.
Yeah.
But it's that fear of actually dreaming big.
Yeah.
And that's where some of these people get caught in the middle. They get caught in the mediocre or it's enough for now. And to think on a grander scale, I think takes courage. Yeah. And that's what's lacking, I think, for some of these people.
Yeah, and I don't even know that the skaters even realize that they're not dreaming big because it's the culture and it's the environment and it's the coach and a lot of it.
Right. You follow the formula. But sadly, a lot of times the formula ends with a top 6 at nationals and you're satisfied.
So speaking of dreaming big, did you see Alysa Liu do the quad lutz on Instagram?
It was only a matter of time. I was impressed it was the lutz.
So I think that didn't she do a quad lutz at regionals?
That I don't know. Yeah, okay.
At one of the events this year, we had seen an attempt. So it's been in the works. It was really hard to tell on Instagram if this was fully rotated. She was like in spots. But the fact that she has the confidence to go out there and try it means they are reaching for something big. So
they're dreaming big. A lot of people
Eteri mentioned her in a post or an interview, or so they're definitely aware that she
sees her, but that's the goal, and it's because suddenly, talk about dreaming big. She is not after junior champion. Mm-hmm. She went right for it, and she is throwing out because she is competing with this up and coming group of incredible skaters at the upper echelon. She's not worried about domestic. She shot right to her sights internationally. And I think that's what it takes. You know, a lot of people probably thought, maybe I shouldn't even mention the name, it's too soon after the videos, that Tara had such arrogance in thinking she could ever be world champion or Olympic champion. But all those people have to think that way.
I mean, Tara Lipinski had that arrogance, and yes, it was grating, but she could back it up at the end of the day.
And it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can say to it, you know, but a lot of us were like, how could she even dream of that? And it's like, and those who are the people who win.
Yes.
Those are the people who break through to that most high level. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
I think Alyssa's one of them. I think I don't know.
If she doesn't burn out too quickly, because we do hear so much about the family, so you know about the pressure, but I think all of the top skaters in the world, ultimately, there always is a relationship.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege.
Pressure is a privilege, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But did you see your boyfriend, Dmitry Aliev? He was a little bit in skimpy red underwear.
Yes, also, let the record show that I truly... Hold on. I have plenty of fake pairs husbands.
Yes.
Like Matteo and these people. I am actually in admiration of Dmitry Aliev's skating.
I
know, I'm just reiterating for the crowd. Although he was posting like Instagram stories in underpants playing with dogs. And I was like, but he did post, Dave, you drew my attention to it, the quad toe triple axel, which
I think should just be called the Hanyu combo, right? At this point.
Fair enough. I think so.
Can't we name, you know how we have a Rosano? Can this be the Hanyu? Because to me, that's what this is. He did the Hanyu, okay?
Yes, and he earned that title. But I got to tell you, Aliev's was exquisite. It was like beautifully strong and simple, yet easy. There was an ease about it, like there is with Hanyu's, that just defies logic.
It's one of my favorite things. It's one of Oprah's favorite things, too. I love it. So,
if only you could give them out then.
Yeah. Everyone gets a quad toe triple axel.
Give it to Deanna.
Oh, man. We could give it to Alex Johnson, and then we could see him skate to Eleanor Rigby. Okay? Would love it. Zdilina. Loved it. Also, Eteri's 11-year-old, Sofia Akatieva, also did a quad toe. Hers looked maybe slightly under, but still impressive as heck. So,
and would you consider her body type similar to Tursynbaeva's?
Yeah, but she's 11. So,
I know, it's horrifying.
Yeah. So, it's funny.
I mean, it's exciting, but there's something I feel like I'm supposed to be concerned.
Yeah. Tursynbaeva,
there's something that doesn't let me be excited. Yeah.
So Tursynbaeva, we can go into her and then go into Zagitova, that whole thing about worlds. Tursynbaeva did a triple axel. It was a little bit landed on the whole blade and the heel, but it looked pretty good. And the fact that she's progressing and now has the quad toe, the triple axel, and quad toe is probably not far off because those jumps are all related to one another. I have to say, she may have enough in base mark and hype and excitement if she lands these jump momentum. I don't know if Zagitova will be able to beat her at a certain point. What happens if Eteri starts outdoing herself with a skater from another country?
Only Eteri can beat Eteri. It is that kind of concept.
Imagine how quickly the Russians would change and turn on her. Okay?
Right,
like that.
Right.
They would start talking about the skating skills.
And it is an interesting thing because skating carries, like you're saying, so much weight to different people in different countries about different athletes. So it's clear, again, you would have thought from some of that public backlash that Evgenia had defected and was now competing for Canada, but really she's just training in Canada representing Russia. But yet I still think somehow the narrative from the World Championships became Eteri 1 and 2, yay, and she beat Evgenia, Canada 3, and it was just like, she still is now responsible if you are looking from it at a nationalistic standpoint, which it seems from our dear Russian friends and spectators that there is a sense of pride in how their country does at a World Championships. And she has now created a new element that prevented Russia from going 1-2, but instead Russia went 1-3. So,
but Eteri seems very happy about that.
So where does this nationalism start and end? It's a fascinating kind of journey here that I think we're about to see unfold.
It's interesting. I know that Zagitova said that she would continue, but then her quotes also made it seem like she gave and expended everything she had to win that world title in spite of everything. I still wonder when she gets back into the rink if we will see her, if we'll see her do a whole season, if we'll see her, have injury or burn out next year. I mean, it seems like it took a lot this season.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what goes forward. If we see her go for the quads, if we see her pull back, she does have, the ball is in her court to make decisions. I think it would be interesting. It just seemed like there's a skater, while she's off doing shows, there is a skater at home who is working on triple axels and quads. Several skaters, but especially one who's a senior. And I'm very curious. Eteri gave the quote that Asians have the better body type for the sport. Look, Frank Harrell said it when he took on Michelle. He thought she would look like Christy. She also said something. They talk a lot about the cultures of their respecting of coaches and stuff, which to some people is factual, some people is racist. Anyway, it is what it is. But the other thing I think is really interesting is that Eteri continually implies and says things about Medvedeva. Over a year after she split with her, she's still talking about her. At a certain point, you have to wonder about Eteri being like, okay, you're a grown-up, right?
Come on. It's that person that's still talking about the ex-boyfriend or the ex-girlfriend and something, and you're like, okay.
So even though she beat her...
Still talking about this? Yeah.
Even though Tursynbaeva did beat Medvedeva, which Eteri seemed very pleased with, does it bother her that she has found success with Orser when it initially looked like she wasn't going to?
I think the real tale will be told next season.
But do you think it bothers Eteri that she didn't just immediately never medal again?
Well, but in a way, she lost a lot of her moment. I don't know. I think Eteri feels confident until next season starts, because that's where I think we're really going to see what happens.
I mean, I think Evgenia has a lot to work on and a lot to strengthen over the summer. I don't know that, Orser has been advocating that she can get a quad sal, that she's worked on quads. But I think that the jumps that she does have, she needs to perform with a bigger amplitude and better landings and higher GOE on everything. Everything bigger, faster, spins better, needs better skating skills, needs to ground down.
I'm really intrigued because, again, I think this year it was too tough to try to watch something in process and kind of assess what we really thought of it as spectators.
And I remember that when we said that she should take a year off, and just train because she would get the funding. Look, Stobova did that, and now they are trying to push Stobova up as like maybe the top team for next year. Now, we don't know what's hot air and what's realistic until we actually see it. She does have Tarasova on her side as well. I think there were also reports that Igor Spielman is going to be helping Stobova. Interesting. But I'm curious to see kind of what they can develop once she actually gets back into the rink, right? And once they actually start working and training.
The work, yeah.
What do you think about the Memoirs of a Geisha music choice? Not the most powerful piece of music for her, and she does well with power, warhorse, driving, storyline.
The drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, now I'd have to, it's been years since I saw the movie, but I wonder if there are more intense portions of it that they look forward to using.
I've always found the music pleasant, right?
Mm-hmm. It's very nice.
Very nice. Mariah had a nice program to it. I don't know if it's slam dunk music, but it will certainly endear her to Japan, which is a slam dunk for her future career. So
fair enough.
You strengthen that bond, Evgenia.
Yeah.
You love Japan, and they will love you back. So
it's so true. Yeah.
And it's certainly
it's
an homage
interesting.
to them. It's very smart.
Well, it was something we talked about with Gracie at first in 2000.
And by the way, I do think she really does love Japan. By the way, she loves anime. She loves performing there. I'm not just saying that. But of course, you're picking something that has significance. So
yeah. And she loves her sport, and that, and I think she really does love her sport, and that's a country that really loves that sport also. Yeah. But it was interesting, like when we were talking about Gracie also kind of responding more to power in general, and then in that 13-14 Olympic year, and she came out with the Grieg for the short program, I wonder if they're trying to give this kind of ladylike, slightly more sophisticated, softer approach.
I think she needs it for longevity.
Yeah. And it ultimately will set her apart from the other two medalists she was on the podium with at Worlds.
Yeah, I think in order for her to be successful long term, we have to be realistic that her winning on the technical is an unrealistic possibility. Right?
So how are you going to get it? Yeah.
You have to get the performance points. You have to be the Carolina Kostner-Grand Dame. I think it's going to be really hard for her to get that level of skating skills, but she can get that level of performance, that level of sophistication, that level of connection with music, with the audience, and she does have to continue to work on the flow and everything. And then the jumps that she does do have to be like, bam. I mean, she needs to bring back that triple sow cow and the triple loop when they're done, and they look like when she used to do the triple sow, triple toe, and it was just the highlight of the program. And it needs to be that good again. I mean, we need to be back
because you really
look.
Go for it.
Yeah, those towers. I didn't know we were like the camera was freezing. Those towers need to be falling, Jonathan, and she needs to still be landing triples as the towers fall in her mist. Okay, like that is what needs to happen with this girl.
And she rises like a phoenix. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's interesting. It's an interesting approach to be feminine, sophisticated, and soft with music like Memoirs from a Geisha, because actually, who is our artistic leading lady group right now? I find it falls to Satoko. And there are people like Rika who possess beautiful qualities, but they're not like this once-in-a-lifetime artist like a Costner was at the end, or like a Mao was, or something like that. She could really gain a lot of traction by kind of filling that role.
She can at least unite it, right? And have the star power that
absolutely
inherent star. Mm-hmm. So she does need better skating skills to do that. But I think that they'll work on it.
Right.
So,
and I think that that work will show up more next season.
Yeah, because it needs time and attention to detail. And it's that annoying slow burn that happens from someone yelling at you every day. So
Right.
Also funny that Tursynbaeva said that Orser's nice, but he never swears, and it's really up to the athlete to push themselves. Which we did know, and she likes Eteri's fieriness, and it does seem to respond to her. The interesting thing that Eteri said in that other interview, and we do know this because remember Zagitova talked about how dehydrated she was at the Olympics. The whole reason why she couldn't produce urine is because she was too dehydrated to pee after she finished.
To produce any.
And you know that you have to drink some water, but you don't want it to be diluted, right? Afterward, there's all that stuff. But that's like 1970s Caroli science going on with the dehydration.
Which was bogus science, and all it did was serve to harm. For instance, we know a lot of Soviet female skaters from the 80s had some real trauma about things they thought were helping the athlete's performance, and it was just kind of a bogus science that was really harmful to the mental health of a lot of skaters and didn't really result in any placement that would ever have been worth it. Not that any placement would have, but
she also said the only doping is good coaching and genetics.
Which we kind of love her for saying that.
Where's Robert Mueller? He's available. Anyway.
Okay.
And that meldonium is not doping because it only helps recovery. Well, in any endurance type sport, recovery is a huge point. That's the whole point of doping.
Yes. And we talked about this with meldonium back in the day when we were doing a lot of research and talking about it, was, again, it wasn't making anyone jump higher. It was just allowing them to train longer and harder. Well,
I love being gaslit. Don't you? I love it. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's cool. Woo, girl. Okay.
And it's interesting, I thought, in the Tursynbaeva article, because we kind of thought this when she first went to Eteri, is she does have a physical shape similar to a lot of Eteri's successes. Mm-hmm. So we knew that she knows how to work with this body type. She gets this body type and this approach to skating, and we felt like all of these quads and stuff were only a matter of time, which of course was true. And by 2019, there they were. And she said, Eteri said, with this body type, why aren't you doing all of this?
And we have seen her train the quads before with Brian.
But not like this. Not like this.
We have seen videos of them. They were always usually like a 1 carat. But I can remember as far back as 2016 seeing her doing them. Maybe even 2015, but definitely 2016. I remember seeing her at least Instagramming. But again, what you can do on Instagram is very different than what you can do when the pressure is on, because we have seen with Gracie Gold that she has rotated these triples, right? Like she's rotated and landed them. But is Vincent posting the one you do a day? Or is he posting something that you do all the time, 2 sessions a day, when you're tired in the program?
Put that anything out of context will be infinitely easier than when it's in context,
Skating is all about confidence, percentages, numbers, right? How many times you can do the jump.
You can't trust the training if there's nothing there to trust. Yeah, of course.
And so Gracie did her performance. Before I even saw it, I knew it was going to be bad.
And by performance, just to reiterate, you meant this
2 exhibitions at the rink she trains at. And there's this like an Ann Jensen skating mom type there who kind of runs that show, who's been very instrumental in Gracie's training and comeback and the situation. You knew it was going to be bad when no one actually said you looked good, but everyone was like, she's feeling the music so well. And I thought, oh, God. I mean, when you
That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Yeah.
When a bunch of skating fans are like grasping to be nice. By the way, I watched it. To me, she looked a little checked out-ish in the performance. Like, I really want to see... Also, the skaters who grew up in the IJS don't really know how to give you crowd-appealing elements when they're not jumping a lot of the times. Like, Medvedeva doesn't have a beautiful spiral, right?
Yeah, there's no big open free moment because it has been so cluttered.
They can't even do like a nice scratch spin, right? Like they can't even blur it at the end. Gracie's kind of scratch spin was around a few times and wobbly, which is just a product of not doing them often and working them, because that's not...
Not that she personally should. You're not talking about her specifically, but just in general.
Just in general. Like when the jumps aren't there, what's left, right? With some of these skaters we see. That's why I don't really like a lot of the exhibitions that we see at the Worlds, because it's not... I had always wanted to see Tanya jump live. I don't know that I ever needed to see a Tanya exhibition, though, Yeah. Oh, I think we needed to see it. I mean, obviously, I'd be in the front row, but yes, you know what I mean. We need to go find it. Like 91 champions on ice. What was she doing? Oh, yeah. Okay. What number?
She did in one of those like hodgepodge videos, like a 1987 Whitney Houston, where she's like doing like sultry moves. It's worth looking it up.
Is it better than Nancy skating to With One Look and then reminding us that it's about Brenda? Or did you see Nancy at the Pirouette 93 in her exhibition? She does the encore.
Okay.
And it's to like a rap, hip hop, 90s like white rap, basically like hip hop type song. Jonathan, like, you owe it to yourself.
Okay,
you owe it to yourself to see Nancy like in like the 90s jacket, like busting a move in a gold dress.
I'm gonna have to take a Dramamine. That moment was also, remember Victor Petrenko's like hot orange jersey with the backwards hat and his rap routine. That was also a tough one. That was a tough one.
Loved it. Okay, just saying.
Loved it.
Loved it. So Gracie. Props for her for going out and going for it. She went for a triple toe.
This is where I diverge with you. I don't know if I give props to someone when I feel like I'm watching masochism.
So I feel like she had to go out as part of like contractual obligations because of funding with people at the rink and owing things, right?
Then host it. Be the name, but I
think if she's ever going to compete and perform again, that we need to get through this state. But I think at this point, there still seems to be mental blocks in terms of going for this stuff. Because we still see her pull back on a double axel, which you know she can do, but she'll go for the single anytime she feels the slightest bit. And to me, I just feel like I'm trying to do the math in my head about like how many months we have, right? So if she's going to compete, she probably has to go out in July and skate. She's got a lot of work to do if she's going to try to put a competitive program together and do it, because even really going and trusting that she can do a triple toe seems hard for her right now. And her Vincent technique in the jumps that she's doing, it almost seems like a bit of a delayed rotation, like a little bit of a Surskaya thing going on. When she does the triple toe, you're like watching it, and you're like, just commit to it, Gracie. You can do it. You know, you can do it. Like, you're almost there, but it's clearly like a mental and physical hurdle to get through it and to really go for this comeback. And I'm curious what the percentage of Gracie is that believes in it, right? Like that believes that she can do it and is doing the off ice and the dance and the run-throughs and everything. Like, is she at that point where she's allowing herself to believe it and go for it? Because
it's too soon. How could anyone who's gone through the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations, you know, toting her around all of the interview circuits, having Russia happen, like all of these things, it takes time to heal and find genuine motivation instead of forcing a solution that says, yes, I'm all better, look.
So I think that this situation, it's clear, is just not working. Because on one hand, I understand what you're saying, like it's too soon after Russia. And I kind of agree, but I also feel like she's not making progress on the timetable that she may need to.
And that's what I'm saying. I feel like she is constantly trying to force herself to be motivated, and you cannot force it. So if you're not motivated right now, it just means it's not time. And if you feel motivated in July, start in July, and maybe it means that the season after you might be ready, or you might never be ready. Yeah. And it's okay.
I think there's a hump that you have to get over, right? Like, you're trying stuff, you're trying to get it back, you're trying to believe that the body can do it, that you can get in the shape you need to be in again, and that you can be good again, right? And when you've had that success, I think it's really hard to put yourself back out there. It just seems like she's at that point, it looks like, where she can do a triple toe. I believe that Gracie Gold can go and do a triple toe if we asked her to, right? She's at the point where I think she needs a coach that's going to force her to do that run-through of that short program, even with the triple sow, which she did a double, and it was like an intended double, but do it with a triple sow, a triple toe, and a double axel every day for a month. And just force her to do it every day for a month, once or twice. I bet you that if she got that confidence, the other stuff would just start coming back like gangbusters.
If
and
she's
Vincent
ready,
isn't one who's known But first, sometimes you do need a push, right? Before you think you're ready in the rink, like in the training rink. But to go out and keep having unsuccessful outings, I don't think is necessarily helpful. So,
Yeah.
because it's clearly, she's been someone that has struggled with delivering under pressure in the past. So you have to kind of really build up that positive,
yeah, it's really
just numbers, percentages, confidence, right? So
I get obligation from her right now. It feels like someone's making her do this. And she may say she wants to, but I just don't, only she knows. But, and maybe
and then, like,
even she
are you
doesn't
wanting
know.
to do it because you love it or because you think you can win again? And what?
Or because you don't know what else
Yeah.
to do. Because you think it's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
And something about it breaks my heart. And I think there's a point in a lot of high performers and athletes, like all of this sort of stuff, when you get to that point where you're like, am I now just chasing what I was even? You know, it's a real hard...
I want her to do it if she loves it. If she really loves it, I want her to do it because I think that she can. But if she doesn't love it and she doesn't...
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I want her to, what I hope for her is that she goes out and does a triple toe as a treat to herself. That it is not like, I'm going to owe it to myself to just, you know, get some triples back, you know, and all this sort of stuff. Deanna, when she came, look how much time she took away from that sport.
Right, but she came back. She was already physically in shape before she started training. Like, she got herself to where she needed to be.
But that's because she decided to come back in a very real way that may not have been able to happen briefly after she had retired.
Yeah. I mean, Gracie's been through a lot in a very brief amount of time. And I think you can't forget that. In
a public way.
In a public way, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's hard. But I think the talent is there. But it will take, like, the right people around her to push her to that next level.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe Vincent is, but it doesn't look like that necessarily. There's just something weird about the vibe. Him calling her the queen, like, there's just something, like, very strange to me about it that I can't put your finger on.
There are red flags, and you think that, like, coming back from something like this, like, that's when you wish you'd work with someone like Jenny, or someone like Yuka, or someone who will let her know it's going to be okay, and we're just going to do a little bit, and you're going to love it, and it's going to be just for you, and we'll go at our own pace. Take some sort of weird obligation off of it, so it can be fun to explore and get things back.
Do you think we could build a rink in Suzanne's backyard? She has putting green back there.
I think Suzanne's going to be too intense for Gracie at the moment. I think
she would love her. Are you kidding? Come on, Gracie. Let's do it.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's go power walking. We're going to get our body fat percentage where I want it. Jonathan, we were sitting in her basement. She still remembered the target percent. So when you compete for Suzanne, you have to agree to a percentage. That's your target healthy weight, right?
Oh.
And you can't...
I'm already having agita about it. Okay.
No. And you have a window above and below, but you can't get too light and you can't get too heavy. And she'll talk about it. And she has been very public on both ends. So we were there with someone who she talked about how Suzanne helped her get over her anorexia that she was developing because she said, you know what? You're too thin. And you know what? I'm going to make you sit there and watch everyone get better until you decide to eat. And she did.
If that's a motivating factor to you, I mean, to me, like, sometimes that just obsessiveness about it. And of course, I understand in these sports where physics are involved, it's not.
So with this person in particular, and it was the person who told us, not Suzanne, about this. Although she has written about this in her book. I don't know if the person's name is mentioned, but she had lost, like, a lot of weight over the summer, and it had been a control thing, and it was developing unhealthy. I don't know if it was, like, full-blown needed to go into treatment, but it was definitely she needed to work these habits and whatnot. But it was just so funny that the girls were still, like, talking about their stories about, like, the healthy Wait,
and in a way, seemingly not traumatized by their experience with that intensity, but rather felt it empowered them in some ways. Again, I'm just not wired that way, and I know certain skaters are.
But I think in singing, it's different too, and to put it in context with you. So when you're an opera singer, you have to take care of your voice, right? In the same way, because it's your instrument. In the same way, like a gymnast or a skater would need to take care of their body and make sure they're eating right, sleeping, whatnot. You probably maybe avoid dairy before you perform. I don't know if you're one of those people.
Oh my gosh, and I do those horrible sinus rinses where it goes up and out the nose, and you're doing apple cider vinegar this, and you're steaming that, and you're sleeping here, and blah, 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 blah. Yes, of course.
So there's like that similar thing where you have to prepare the instrument. So
but I have to view it like I'm treating myself to those things instead of it's a chore and I have to do those things. And unfortunately, that's where I'm probably just being Hector projector, but that's where I find Gracie seems to me like I have to do this show. I have to go to Russia. I'm supposed to do this Instagram video of me doing a triple sow, like instead of I'm going to treat myself to getting back my jumps or, I owe it to myself. And I'm going to perfect these spins again because that's going to be a treat and a positive thing I'm working on.
So did you notice that the day that Chen announced that she got into Cornell because she changed her Instagram bio, which props to Chen getting into Cornell. Mm-hmm. By the way, it is really cold. Go to College Town Bagels. I prefer the one downtown. But anyway, they have a really great salad bar there, and it's like all organic because it's Ithaca. So, and although the Cornell one is okay, it's just like, whatever. But anyway, Karen posted herself doing the triple lutz, triple toe again. And it was like, okay, you don't have to post, we can celebrate you getting into Cornell without you also showing that you can skate. So is Karen going to do the thing where we go to college and there just aren't many high-level coaches in Ithaca, which is in the middle of nowhere, by the way. There is an ice rink there, so she could skate if she does want to compete. Cornell's also a really hard university. It's one of the ones where it's an easier Ivy to get into, but it will kick your behind when you're in there. And the weather is awful, and you have to walk. I remember a college book said it's the only school where you are going to walk at a 40-degree incline in 10-degree weather in snow, sleet, and rain to go get a 40 on a midterm. And
amazing.
Imagine trying to compete on that, and it's a lot. Are we going to have to postpone? So I imagine she'll get the Grand Prix assignment, right? And then are we going to see if she's going to go, and then wait for Chen to go, and then wait to see if she's going to pull out, wait to see if she's going to pull out of nationals? I feel that's the way this is going to go.
Are there repercussions for having pulled the shenanigans right before Cup of Russia or Rostelecom Cup? If I'm the USFS, I'm a little
Don't you feel like that's the way it's going to go with Karen? It feels like destiny, right? We're going to or we're going to debate if we're going to go to nationals into the last moment. I feel like this is going to happen. I just feel it. I feel it in my bones. We are just going to be on this journey of whether or not Chen will perform at the nationals.
And she's lost the momentum. There was some momentum.
Points, right?
Yeah. But she got that book deal.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Mariah was told that she couldn't get a book. Nice transition. Mariah was told that she couldn't get a book deal because she didn't have enough of a social media following.
And unfortunately, I do believe that, knowing that certain high-end publishers, you see this. They literally will go to social media to track following and all that sort of stuff.
That's part of the name of the game now.
It 100% is.
I even had a friend whose kid is doing some child performing, acting and stuff, and even to get those gigs, they want you to have a social media presence. It's why you see people like Lisa Rinna's kids or Lori Laughlin's daughter getting the opportunities they have. The social media following is such a currency. And
yes, it's a currency. That's a great way to put it. Yeah,
and
I agree
entirely.
Some
people will buy fake followers and all of that. But anyway, Karen did, though, have a book. You're right. But I wonder, in that case, is that about the potential of her being the next Olympic star rather than...
And I can't speak to the quality of the publisher. It was not a book I read. But
they're represented by the same people, so it made me wonder. But
Right. Well, and it's interesting because if you're looking at a story like Mariah's, we know there is a feel-good element where made Olympics, didn't make Olympics, made Olympics, landed triple axel, but it's not quite the fairy tale story that just a casual reader will pick up. So now they're relying on the skating community. But, in the skating community, there's like a mixed...
I am impressed with Mariah,
response to her.
And here's why. I'm impressed that a year ago, she was on the red carpets.
Mm-hmm.
As like...
She was just on Drag Race.
Right? But she was a member. She was in the dresses on the red carpet. She's actually working for ABC7 Eyewitness News as an intern, and she'll be on the red carpet as an intern / reporter. And I think that is, I really respect that she's doing the grunt work and she's doing the work where it's not the sexy thing. You're seeing someone else get all of the attention, and I respect that she is actually still performing and still skating, but really moving forward with her life and exploring other avenues. I have a lot of respect for that.
I agree.
Because I think to get trapped into the whole micro fame, Instagram fame thing becomes really...
The transition out of that is very
ugly.
tricky. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting. That was just... And I think she does have a message if she wants to. She wanted to talk about body shaming, I think, and body image, and I still think that she can in the future. Look, Mariah, self-publish. Because you have enough fans that will buy this, that if you actually write it yourself and self-publish, you can make enough money. You could pay for like a semester of college, like easy. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like a tour.
Yeah. Like the Tessa Virtue and Scott Moir. What is it called? Rock the Tour, Rock the Date, whatever. The theme for this year, they're not thanking Canada.
They've been thanked.
They've been thanked.
Now we're going to rock it.
We're going to rock it. I think you're going to feel the same way about it, because I imagine a high ponytail is involved. And maybe faux leather jackets. I'm just picturing it, right? With like some like ornamentation on.
Only if someone's wearing that hot orange jersey again.
What kind of rock music do you... Oh, but there's going to be a live band, which I hate. But
yeah, it's a tricky thing to do sometimes. It doesn't always work as much as you had hoped it would in an ice arena kind of venue.
Frankly, it never does. Remember when Art on Ice, that they had to perform to the Jacksons one year? It was like the Jacksons minus Michael, minus most of the ones that you would care about.
It was just LaToya. Okay.
It was not LaToya. It was like Randy, Tito.
Tito. Okay, amazing.
Although one year they got Leona Lewis to do it, which was kind of impressive.
Well, and they do the opera on ice in Italy with like legitimate singers, but of course it's always a weird situation.
Yeah. I get it, Jonathan. But anyway, the cast is interesting. Weaver and Poche are not doing it. So they're still running for it. They want another top 5 finish, want to push towards the podium at Worlds.
And like we said, I didn't know if this would give them a confidence to think that they could do another tour again. Because they really used the tour to their benefit.
They did, but it probably did cost them any chance of winning a world medal when you look at the end, because they didn't have the momentum. But I don't think that they probably would have won it anyway.
No.
So I thought it was interesting that they're at least still going for it, because you have to think, at this stage of their life and careers, who knows if they're going to go the distance to the next Olympics, 31 cities is a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
But it would also knock you on your ass at the end of it, instead of now feeling rested and able to segue right into competition.
Right.
You would need a huge recuperation time, I think. That is grueling.
Well, you got to think, how much money you're going to make in skating? And they're in the early 30s. If you want to have kids, like, you probably want to be done at a certain point so that you can do that. You want to make your money before you transition. So it's interesting to know what their goals really are and whether or not... Because if you look at the world podium, you've got the French, Hubble and Donahue are up there.
And a Russian TBD.
Which one are you going to knock off? That's tough. That's difficult. Probably not the French. Just got a feeling. So that's a tall order. for any of these teams. So, yeah, I just wonder if their moment...
But do we think they were offered it? Or do you think...
I would think so, right?
Okay.
Because I think they're a bigger deal in Canada than Capellini and Lenote, so...
Right.
Who are on the tour. Jeremy Abbott got it. So he's someone... Look, Jeremy's skating to give him 31 shows. I think he can do a lot. He's a great performer.
Oh, my. And such a skater. Yeah. Like, that's where you want to see him. Yeah.
Also, our girl Carolina Kostner on the tour.
Who did announce, like, she did have, like, a vague article where she's like, might come back.
So maybe she'll perform again. Look, I would never say never with her.
Right.
Look, there's always one Russian girl she can try to push off the podium. Okay?
That's right.
Elvis Stoico again.
Back for more.
So is he going to do like the Bruce Springsteen number? Well, we're bringing back nostalgic ones that we've done before. Maybe it's not Dragon. Maybe it's his like Olympic exhibition this year.
1492. I thought that was.
What was his 94 Olympic exhibition? I don't know. It was jeans and a white T-shirt. It all looked the same.
Van Halen. He did Van Halen.
Oh, right.
94 exhibition. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll do. I think he should do Van Halen and Thank You Canada.
Vern Lundquist really got a kick out of it.
I think Tessa Virtue's going to recycle the leather jacket that. Did she use a leather jacket during the dance-off number? For Madonna.
You know, it's not something I have given much thought to after I watched it initially. And again, to clarify for many people who were very traumatized by our comments about that tour, it's
actually
not about them.
A lot of people loved our comments about that tour.
Oh, for sure. But of course, there's there's always that handful that don't understand the differentiation between a product and a person.
Yes.
And it's just in general, for me personally, that kind of tour, it's just not something I would attend. It's just not why
Jonathan, you need to let us know that you're an opera singer.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with like...
An opera singer and a reality star. So.
Yeah, self-proclaimed. But it's just one of those moments where you're like, this is a no-win situation, even if it's the finest of skater for me personally, because I'd rather see them do something more complicated and full lights.
Well, some of the cities aren't announced until May, and they did say that they might come to the U.S., but it didn't reference it in the article this morning that I read. I skimmed it, but I didn't see it. I was like looking at the cities.
Okay.
You know I may force you to go. If it's close enough, Jonathan.
Well, they could probably hit up a Detroit with Tessa and Scott and Jeremy, and, there's kind of a real Detroit crowd built in there for that.
Yeah, they should have Marilyn Charlie guest perform.
Marina can host it. Okay.
So Patrick Chan again, and Caitlin Osmond. So good for Miss Caitlin. Making that money, honey. Okay?
Yeah.
Do it. Okay? Just put it in a nice investment account. Okay. Anyway.
That's right.
Right. Don't spend it all now. Let
30 of those cities. You let that 31st city be a treat for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Trankov does not want to coach Tarasov Morozov anymore, and apparently Elton John doesn't really want to be the head coach either of them. But they have other people on that staff, so I don't think it's... Maybe they'll be with like that guy with like the white hair or whatever his name is.
Right. Well, I was intrigued if this kind of success, if they needed to see this success on the world stage in order to light a fire under them, maybe in the rink. I guess it's a combination of an arena and rink. But, Trankov has often said on television his frustration with trying to motivate this team. And at some point, I suppose you just got to be like, I can't keep giving if you're not going to take it. But
this was their window. This was their window to win. They made some choices, like they scaled back on the throws. It was successful for them. I thought overall this season they were more consistent than usual. Mm-hmm. I think it was a step forward. They still aren't crossing the finish line just yet.
I know it's beating a dead horse, but this is, again, maybe if they themselves believed in the material, they would be more inclined to put in the work.
Yeah, I don't know who these people are at this point. We don't know them as people, so it's hard to tell.
Right. We just know a lot of people complain about their lack of motivation.
Well, she could look like she likes skating while she's performing. Like, that would be helpful. Even if you're going to skate to dramatic music, maybe move your face. And
there's still there's an intensity to that music still that you could be portraying through energy instead of like kind of an apathetic, at times, seemingly approach to all of the elements. And then he shares sometimes too. I don't know why everyone dumps it just on her, because I've seen him kind of like flake out on some jumps.
Oh, he does. I just think with her, she's so striking and beautiful, and the positions are so beautiful, and you're looking for her to be the flower. It's just like where your eye goes, and you're like...
When she feels like being the flower. Yeah. Yeah, and it goes in and out. Yeah, of course, difficult with a team, again, that you see has been gifted all of these incredible inherent things that so many other teams lack.
And they were matched so well.
They really are, and they just kind of rest on their basic laurels, I guess, and it can only go so far. But
whatever. So yeah, it's been quite the week, and also all quiet on the Eunsoo front. Do you notice? Nothing has come out. We were supposed to hear things after the World Championships, Jonathan. We only got
things you substituted the word Western with Eunsoo. But Mariah did make her comment.
Yes. What did she say?
Please hold. Please let us refer.
I'm asking
because
I don't know.
Get this wrong. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I didn't memorize it, but I could paraphrase.
I'm happy to be back home after 2 good skates at the World Championships and a season that I'm really proud of. I want to thank my family, fans, and friends, Raphael and Vera Artini.
Oh, get to it, Mariah, okay?
And U.S. figure skating for their support last week. We questioned how supportive they were versus how supportive they might have been.
By the way, her sister was supposed to go to Korea, you were saying, on tour?
To do the Frozen on Ice tour. And I don't know what ended up happening there, but they were having some real complications. Okay. She said, as I told Eunsoo in Japan, the incident practice was very unfortunate and I meant absolutely no harm. Our training environment is professional and supportive, and I've never changed locker rooms or training times or anything like that. The comments that my friends, family, and I have received on social media, this is, I think, also including the sister, which is unfortunate, not that it wasn't for Mariah, and I received on social media were hateful and disturbing, and hopefully this situation raises awareness and causes people to think twice before hitting tweet or post. I learned a lot about my inner strength last week, and I'm excited to continue to train in the lead up to Beijing in 2022. So
I really liked her statement.
I thought that was a nice statement. And I know this is an unfortunate situation and there's no clear way out of it, but I do wonder if the strategy from Eunsoo's camp is to just lay low and let this blow over and proceed. I wonder if there is regret in the way it was handled.
I don't know. Who knows? We're not them. It just seems strange that they had promised all of this information that people took as this was going to be coming, and then we haven't heard anything. So it's...
Exactly. But smart. I think smart for them to shut it down. And maybe that was part of a contingency to let her stay and train in California, was that this conversation is closed.
Yeah, we keep getting questions from a couple of users about whether or not she's still there, and I don't think anyone has an answer about that one way or the other. Right. So, yeah, it's been quite the quite the week, and also the USFS is now dealing with John Manley in the fallout of the John Coughlin situation. So,
and remind us who John Manley is.
So John Manley is
Manley's dad.
So John Manley is an attorney who has represented victims and survivors from Larry Nassar. He's also was already representing Craig Maurizi. He's represented skaters that were suing about DJ Vincent in California, and also he previously has had litigation against the Catholic Church. So this is certainly not, and he had very strongly worded statements for
about figure skating in the United States.
And also he has a lot of contacts, because right after he made his statement, Sid Blumenthal made comments, and I know that Sid Blumenthal was someone that spoke out against Larry Nassar, USC Gymnastics. So I imagine some of these
wheels are beginning to turn.
And I imagine John Manley has a playbook with certain people on speed dial when he wants to
move things forward in a very real way. Yeah.
And the U.S. figure skating response was subpar, and just
to say the least, or to put it nicely, I think I don't know if this is generational, but there's an energy that needs to change, and I think that's coming.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know that they had several conference calls before teams split. Like those statements that are all of 3 paragraphs are negotiated and advised and everything.
Their focus is so in the minutia of the wrong part and lacks kind of a big picture situation here. And it's, that expression, penny smart and dollar stupid. I mean, it's a little bit about the vision we see sometimes, this obsession with the narrative now instead of the image of the larger picture, Yeah.
It's been a week.
It really has, including the Enya Spring Trophy, Dave. You're trying not to bring it up. Gabriella Izzo, Junior Champion of the U.S.
You're really into this event.
Clobbering Star Andrews and Krasnozhan and Torgashev, of course, there also. But yes, I mean, it was just the only competition until now we have the circus that is the World Team Trophy.
Yes, well, we will have the World Team Trophy. It's always a tough one to get through.
It is. We'll bring foam fingers and noisemakers.
Woo! Yes. So we have to see the same programs again.
Mm-hmm. When everyone's finally ready to do the new ones. Learn some new programs.
See, this is why we appreciate the Hershey Kisses Challenge, when maybe we do a competitive short and are long to a show version of Evita. I'm ready for fun and artistry for the sake of artistry and...
That's right. Not a weird aftershock of the season. Yeah.
It's a weird hangover event.
That's right. Yeah.
Are they really dressing in American flag pants? And, oh dear. But the skaters do earn a lot of money if you get to go, and it's divided
which I think is important, and I think that's great. Yeah.
So, and people have asked us to do episodes on the different funding and skating and how it works and how the money works. And the bottom line is that, yes, they do make... The top skaters can earn money. They invest a lot in it along the way, but it is nothing compared to tennis money or...
you were beginning to look at
golf
actual
money,
hard numbers. And but of course the crowd has to be there. The sport has to be pumping in that money in order for them to make it.
Yeah, because when we were talking about Weaver and Poche 31 shows, if you win a Grand Prix event, you get $18,000. Now, in the U.S., that money might be matched to a certain percentage, or maybe by the USOC if you win gold, so you would make more bank. Then that money is taxed, sometimes double taxed if you win it in another country.
And you're splitting it. You're splitting it with your partner.
And your coach can get a percentage, so there's all that sort of thing going in here. So other skaters other countries where the country controls, and funds your training 100%, they may take that money. So
It's a very interesting thing. And even like we were talking, some of these top level coaches don't make what you think they would make.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of thing. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Anyway, we are going to be judging on Patreon the 2002 pairs. So I'm excited to go through that. This week, that episode was commissioned. Also, the 2002 men have been commissioned. So
it was an Olympics, that one.
Yes, it was an Olympics. So we have, I think other requests are coming through. So we have a lot of shows that are planned for the upcoming months. So stay tuned. We'll see you this weekend. Hold an edge and look sexy. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.